Yes, I have seen the glorious and it is wonderful. Hello guys, welcome, or if you've already seen my channel before, welcome back. I am the Philadelphia Whovian, and yes, for this video, as it was in the title sequence, we're talking about that wonderful thing called Miss Marple. Okay, Miss Marple, yes, I have now become acquainted with it. Something I was not aware of a year ago, now I am, and it's a classic that I'm happy I was asked or recommended to actually watch. Alright, so guys, welcome to my channel. If you've not been to my channel before, I am the Philadelphia Whovian who's telling you, if you are new to my channel, be prepared. I am one of those notorious YouTubers who sits in front of the camera and just talks. It's just my way. My lack of skill when it comes to technology just makes me that one person who sits right there in front of the camera. And this is how she is. Yeah, it's that. But literally, it shouldn't be a long video, so I think you can take it. Yes, hear me out. Okay, so Miss Marple. Miss Marple is a murder mystery series that was written by Agatha Christie. Yes, the legendary Agatha Christie. Guys, who know about Agatha Christie, tell me, was she from Torquay? Or Torquay, like that place? Because isn't Torquay the same place that Fawlty Towers took place in? Or am I wrong? Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section. I could be totally in error. I do not deny this. Okay, so Miss Marple is literally a, village busybody. She is literally an old spinster of a woman who lives in an English village, and she is incredible at solving mysteries. When I say incredible, think of Sherlock Holmes, but embodied in an old, really old woman. And in some ways, I think she might even be a little more insightful than Sherlock Holmes. Hear me out why. Sherlock Holmes is a genius. He goes off of deductive reasoning. So does Miss Marple, but Miss Marple is almost like she's a sixth sense about murder. Like, she can kind of sense things. Like, it's not just her using deductive reasoning, which she does use very well, but also the way she can just make assumptions and deduce things. It's almost like, again, like she has it's really almost like a superpower of how to deduce crime. And that was incredible to watch. Now, I admit, it took me a while to get into the show because of the way, it's, the time period it came out. The ones I did, yeah, I should clarify. Okay, when it comes to Miss Marple, she's been played by a few different actresses, and I do admit, guys, I have not seen many Miss Marple stories. The only ones I've seen are the ones that were performed by Joan Hickson as Miss Marple. I know there are other Miss Marples, so I don't have a wide, acquaintance. Is my cat in the background? Yeah, she was in the background, wasn't she? Oh, I'm sorry. It was my. Oh, yeah, there it is. There it is. I'm sorry, guys. Okay. Focus. I must focus. Yes. Try to, watch the video despite there a cat moving back and forth in the background who is more enjoyable to look at than me. Yeah, thanks, Zeus. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Alright, so back to Miss Marple. Okay, so Miss Marple, an old woman, like, there's crime, and she's seen so much crime in her life, or she has experienced crime, but she has an ability to really discern what truly has occurred, and just look past all of the veneer that everybody places, and just sees things in a wider view. Every now and again, sometimes she admits to not listening to something properly, and therefore missing the mark, and we get that with the Caribbean Mystery, or A Caribbean Mystery. But overall, no, woman's very insightful, and once she's given the information, she does deduce it very, very quickly. Alright, so again, I don't have the biggest acquaintance with Miss Marple, and I'm sure other actresses who play Miss Marple are good, but the ones that I've seen are played by Joan Hickson. Okay, and of the stories that Joan Hickson has done, I don't know how many stories she's done, but I only admit I've only experienced 8 stories, and that is The Body in the Library, A Murder is Announced, A Pocket Full of Rye, They Do It with Mirrors, A Caribbean Mystery, The Mirror Cracked from Side to Side, Sleeping Murder, and 450 to Paddington. Now, I don't know if those are hailed as the best of however many Joan Hickson has, but I personally really enjoyed pretty much all of them. And here's the weird thing. I actually am more terrified watching Miss Marple than I am of watching Sherlock Holmes, for two main reasons. One, Miss Marple, we get a lot more time with the characters in Miss Marple. Literally, it's like you're watching like feature-length films when you're watching Miss Marple stories. And the adaptations, whoever adapted them, between the fantastic writing that is Agatha Christie to the people who adapted it. Sorry, did I stumble there? Yes, I totally mumbled. People who adapted it, the writers, they really made sure these characters are fully fleshed out, so we as an audience spend more time with the characters in Miss Marple, and as a result, it gives you time to be more terrified. There's that. But also, Miss Marple, as I said before, she's an old spinster of a woman who lives in an English village. So she's quite frail. So when you got Sherlock Holmes and Watson, you've got these, relatively younger characters who can be physically imposing and can look after themselves if need be. Miss Marple, there's a much greater sense of danger involved. Because Miss Marple, if she doesn't get things right at that particular time, somebody can die, and she could even be in danger. And her courage is astounding. Again, an older woman, very frail, and episodes like Sleeping Murder, I keep mumbling, I'm sorry. Episodes like Sleeping Murder, or stories like Sleeping Murder, the villain is walking up the steps in the dark. It's terrifying. Oh God, it's so terrifying. It's so terrifying. Oh, terrifying. And he's strangling the victim, and Miss Marple comes out of the shadows and just shoots water at him, and she protects the woman who's about to be killed. But it's like, oh gosh, again, Miss Marple is courageous little woman, but she is in all essentials a frail older woman. So she has to get everything right at that particular time, because she doesn't have the ability to just run in and, with physical prowess, just overcome the situation. She has to always have backup and also have things organized in the right moment at the right time, or somebody will die, including herself. But Miss Marple will risk this all anyway. She was very brave old woman. And this naturally endeared, this show was endearing to me because I grew up, in the 80s, and there was a TV show that I was raised on because there was that leading character who, no matter how scary the murder, you were okay. Well, actually, there was two shows. No matter how scary the murder possibly was, the lead person made it enjoyable for you to watch when you were a child, and that was Murder, She Wrote and Columbo. Both times you got a leading character who is naturally makes the horror or the fear of what's going on less scary because of their natural presence. They keep things calm for you because they are a calming presence who is not the customary typecast concept of the lead detective sort of character. Murder, She Wrote, to the point I can't but wonder if Murder, She Wrote... Oh, those of you guys who have not seen Murder, She Wrote, Murder, She Wrote is literally Miss Marple. You got an old, very, something about, her is just inviting an older woman who has a natural ability at discerning murder. And again, like Miss Marple, she's a calming presence. And then Columbo is about a detective who is the last person you would typecast as a detective. He's a small man played by Peter Falk, who is naturally, like when you're a kid, he's just enjoyable. Like he's naturally, you as an audience, as a child, feel like you're okay as long as Columbo is there. Even though they're these smaller people, smaller in stature, they naturally have a universality to them, or a presence that feels universally acceptable or accepted. Does that make any sense? There we go. And that is the way it is with Miss Marple. And of course, as it is with, Columbo, you have your slew of incredibly talented actors who guest star on the show to play the villains or play a supporting character. Like, for example, the actress who plays Moneypenny in the Pierce Brosnan James Bond, she's in one episode. She also was in Mansfield Park back in 1986. Then, of course, we have Peter Davison, the Fifth Doctor. He was in one episode as well. There's that one actor whose name I gotta remember. He plays villains all the time. It's like once people found out he had that smooth villain voice, he was like asked to play villains, and that's all he ever played for the longest time as he got older. He was in Lethal Weapon 2, and he was also in Sherlock Holmes: The Copper Beeches. Yeah, you know what actor I'm talking about. He's that guy who's very talented, and he always plays the very smooth talking villain. And yeah. he's that guy. He's that guy. So again, lots of great actors. Oh, and John Castle, he's in this twice. And we have reoccurring characters as well, Dolly, but also we have a detective, I believe it's Detective Slack. He is a consistent character, and we see how he goes from being completely dismissive of Miss Marple, calling her nothing but a village busybody, to they do it with mirrors, where he learns to respect her by the very end. Either way, we have a situation where we have yes again, a older English woman, who is a spinster, as they call her, who has such a keen insight to crime. And when I first watched her, I'll be honest, the first episode I saw was A Caribbean Mystery. And I'll be honest, I actually didn't like Miss Marple, because there was another person there who was a detective, an older man. It was at a vacation spot or a holiday resort. And he was an older guy walking around. He had all these stories. And Miss Marple, sometimes she kind of listened to him, but only half listened to him. And there was even one time where she walked away from him, and yes, he was drunk, but she said, well, this is a place for young people. We are not young. And I just didn't like how, I like people who talk, who sit down and talk and just tell stories. So I liked him. And so initially I did not like that Miss Marple was so dismissive of him the way everybody else was. Because I like people who just, like to sit and give conversations just for the sake of talking. And because I know they just want to talk. And they just want someone to, hear them. But by the end of it, it turns out Miss Marple realized she should have been listening to him all along, because if she had listened, actually, in the grand scheme of things, possibly at least 2 of the 3 people who died would not have died, because she would deduce things earlier if she had just listened more intently to his stories. Either way, but what does she do at the very end? She said, I should have listened, and I've been foolish and stupid. She can admit, Miss Marple can admit when maybe she did something wrong somewhere by not being as attentive as she could have been. So that makes her, by the end of it, I really admired her as a character, not just for her intelligence, deductive reasoning, and good sleuthing skills, but also because of the ability where she could even admit, it's like, oh, you know what? I can be stupid sometimes. That makes her a naturally endearing character on both sides. She's heroic, but she's also flawed, but she's flawed in a very innocent way. Not in like a bad person way, no. She just simply has her moments where she should have listened, but didn't. But she acknowledges it, and she confronts it, and she owns it. And that makes her a very endearing character. So yes, these are the 8 stories I've seen of Miss Marple. Have you seen any of these Miss Marple stories? Let me know in the comment section. Have you ever seen Miss Marple yourself? I would recommend seeing Miss Marple. I've seen, again, only the Joan Hickson ones, and I do like them. And just sitting down and just allowing yourself to really watch it and get into this time period's directing and writing style and focus. With Miss Marple, you have to pay attention to every single detail, because if you don't, you will miss. You literally will miss something that was vital to how she solves it later. It's like all the details are really well in place, and once you get used to the directing style, the directing is absolutely amazing. Like in A Murder is Announced, great story. Agatha Christie, wow, you are a genius with this one. But in that story, A Murder is Announced, there's 2 characters, 2 females, figuring out who the murderer was. One of the females, she actually fought in the, she actually served in some sort of army service. And you like both characters, because one's super intelligent, one's a little bit bonkers, but she's a really lovely woman. And she finds out, she realizes whose face was a face she did not see, and therefore who is possibly the murderer. But the other woman has to leave, but you see as they're talking, the camera goes up to the window and sees them through the window, and you hear the villainous music, and you know the murderer is watching them through the window. That is true horror. That is truly frightening. That is truly, God, oh my gosh. And then the one character leaves, and you better believe the baddie woman who actually did figure it out, she gets killed, and the other woman comes back home and finds her friend dead. And I love when she shouts, because she didn't stay in time to find out who the real villain was, but she knows it's a woman, and she says, I'm going to kill her. I'm like, yes! God, I love that. This woman literally is like, I'm going to kill her. And then when she does see the actual villain, she's like, I was going to kill you. And then she lunges at the woman, and you know she was going to kill that woman if she had not been pulled back. God, I love stuff like that. Guys, what do you want from me? I'm an American. That's just, yeah. And before I go, I want to express my dismay and my pain about what's happening right now with the I don't know if you've who watch my videos know that right now we have the situation of another cop killing another African American when he's subduing them, and that cop is charged with murder, and all the riots that have happened as an excuse of this situation, when in reality that is not right. These are people who are just being vandals. I sympathize with everything that's been going on, but guys, I'm one of those people who, when all hell is going on, I just look for the fun, and I look for stuff I can talk about that's more amusing. And I'm aware of the news. I'm aware of the tragedies that are going on outside. But while we're in here, while we're in my room, sometimes let's just talk about the fun. So thank you guys so much for watching. You were awesome. You really were, guys. Thank you. And I'll see you again very soon. Bye, guys. Judy. Bye, guys.